It was 6:38 a.m. in the elegant mansion of Chief Derek Omadayo, a respected billionaire in Port Harcourt. He had just stepped out of his bedroom, adjusting his tie with one hand and holding his car key in the other. Today was an important day. A huge oil pipeline contract was on the table, and he couldn't afford to be late. But before he could reach the door, someone blocked his path. Kabira? He said, confused. The housemaid was on her knees, eyes swollen and red like she had been crying all night. She pressed her forehead to the marble floor and trembled. Please, sir, I'm begging you. Don't leave this house today, she whispered. Derek blinked, unsure if he heard her correctly. What? I saw it, sir, she continued, her voice shaking. You wore this same blue suit, entered your car, but you never came back. There was an explosion. Blood. People were shouting your name. Please, don't go. For a moment, silence held the air hostage. Derek stared at the girl. He had only seen her as a background figure in the house. Quiet, hardworking, always doing her chores with her head bowed. But today, she was shaking like she had seen a ghost. Just then, heels tapped down the stairs. It was his wife, Pamela Omadayo, flawless in a silk robe, face already beat with makeup, hair wrapped in a net. What is going on here? She asked, folding her arms. She's saying I shouldn't go out, Derek replied, still staring at the girl. Pamela scoffed. Because of Dream? Ah, beg, stand up from there, Jor. I told you this village girl would become a problem. Derek, you have a 200 million naira deal waiting. Don't let nonsense distract you. I'm sorry, Ma, I had to say it, Kabira muttered. Enough, Pamela snapped. Stand up now before I drag you myself. But Derek didn't move. Kabira, he said slowly, are you sure about this dream? I'm sure, sir, she said. It wasn't just a dream. It felt like a warning, like something is trying to protect you. His chest tightened. He couldn't explain it, but something didn't feel right. The air had shifted. Derek stepped back, turned around, and dropped his car keys on the glass center table. I'm not going. Pamela turned sharply. What? I said I'm not going. Because of her? Pamela's voice grew shrill. You're joking, right? I'm not joking. Without another word, he sat on the sofa and placed his head in his hands. Pamela hissed and stormed back upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Kabira picked up the tray she had left earlier and quietly disappeared into the kitchen. But Derek sat still, his heart thudding hard. He had never disobeyed his instinct before, and today that instinct sounded like a housemaid's voice. 2 hours later, his phone rang. He checked the screen. Boma, PA, he answered. Yes, sir. Boma's voice was shaking. There was an attack. The road leading to the meeting venue. Armed men ambushed your convoy. The Prado Jeep you normally use, it exploded. Police think it was a targeted hit. Derek's mouth went dry. His entire body froze. That was the exact car he was supposed to use. The exact time. The exact route. He sat back slowly and stared into space. Pamela came back downstairs hours later, phone in hand. I hope you've come back to your senses now? There was an attack, Derek cut in, eyes still distant. On the same road. My car is gone. Pamela paused. You're serious? My driver is in the ICU. Pamela's hand fell to her side, her face blank. She saved my life, Derek muttered. Pamela frowned. Are you saying... I'm keeping her. No, that girl needs to go, she hissed. She's staying, he said firmly. Pamela's eyes flashed. So now you're taking orders from housemaids? I'm protecting myself from people who pretend to love me, Derek replied coldly. Pamela was silent. For the first time since their marriage, he looked at her and felt nothing. Just emptiness. Derek started paying attention after that day, watching everyone, listening more. Pamela barely spoke to him unless it was to complain. His business partner, Gerald, started acting strange, always rushing deals, trying to make him sign documents without review. 3 days later, while eating breakfast in silence, Kabira whispered again, this time while clearing the plates. Sir, please don't travel this weekend. I had another dream. What did you see? Derek asked without turning. She paused. You were arrested for fraud. They said you signed something that wasn't yours, but I saw Gerald. He was laughing. Derek said nothing, but his mind began to work. That same evening, Gerald called him. Chief, we need you in Abuja on Saturday for that oil lease approval. Just sign the papers and show face. It's just protocol. I'll think about it, Derek replied flatly. When the contract documents arrived, Derek sent them to a lawyer friend outside the company. 2 days later, the results came back. Forged figures, fake permits, ghost beneficiaries. Gerald had been stealing for months, using Derek's name to cover the trail. Kabira's warning had saved him again. Derek couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, but because everything he thought was solid in his life was now shaking. Gerald, his business partner of over 12 years, had been stealing from him. Pamela, the wife he had built a mansion for, now felt like a stranger in designer clothes. But the strangest thing of all? The housemaid, Kabira, knew things no ordinary girl should know. She had warned him about the trip to Abuja, the trip that would have landed him in jail. She had warned him about signing documents, the documents that would have buried him alive. And now Derek was beginning to ask questions, starting with her. That night, as the rain tapped softly against the windows, he found her in the kitchen, rinsing plates quietly. "Kabira," he said gently. She paused. "Yes, sir?" He stepped forward. "I need to know something." She looked up. "Who are you, really?" Her hands froze under the running tap. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then softly she said, "I'm just a girl who listens when God speaks." The next morning, Derek pretended everything was normal. He greeted Pamela, wore his usual black suit, and told Gerald on the phone, "I'll be in Abuja next week. Send another version of the papers." But behind the scenes, he was building a case. He called his private lawyer, quietly brought in a forensic accountant, started auditing every contract Gerald had ever handled in the last 2 years. And what they found? Fake vendors, inflated invoices, money moved in circles through dummy companies, all linking back to Gerald and Pamela. Pamela, meanwhile, was growing restless. She started making snide comments at Kabira. "She walks around this house like she owns it. She doesn't greet me properly anymore. She's always eavesdropping." But Derek didn't entertain it. He just kept watching. That Sunday afternoon, as they returned from church, he noticed Pamela step aside to take a call. Her voice was low, but his instincts were high. Later that night, after she slept, he opened her second phone, the one she always hid in her drawer. And there it was. A message from Gerald. "Phase 3 by Friday. We'll clear him completely and transfer everything. I've found someone in CAC who will switch the director name after he signs. No mistakes this time. He must sign." Derek stared at the screen, frozen. They were still planning, still pushing, even after all the warnings, even after he nearly died. He sent the entire chat to his lawyer. Then he locked the phone back in the drawer. The next evening, Kabira approached him in the corridor. She didn't speak immediately. She waited until the hallway was clear. Then she whispered, "They're desperate now." Derek nodded slowly. "I know. I had another dream," she said. "They won't stop until you're destroyed or dead." "What should I do?" he asked. Kabira looked into his eyes and said something he didn't expect. "Play along. Pretend to fall into their trap, but make sure you're the one holding the knife." So that's exactly what Derek did. 2 days later, he invited Gerald over, sat with him, laughed, pretended like nothing happened. "You and I, we've come a long way," Derek said, patting his back. "Let's push this final deal and take over that Ikoyi property. I'm ready." Gerald smiled. His eyes lit up with greed. "I told you you'd come around. I'll bring the documents tomorrow." Pamela, watching from upstairs, smiled to herself. It was working, or so she thought. But what none of them knew was that Derek had already sent the fake document to the police, that the lawyer Pamela trusted was now working with Derek's team, and the papers he would sign the next day? They were bait. That night, Derek stepped out into the backyard. Kabira was sitting quietly near the garden, peeling oranges. He sat beside her. For a long time, they didn't speak. Then he said, "Thank you." She looked at him. "You listened. That's why you're still standing." "I should have listened to my spirit years ago," she smiled faintly. "Most men in your position don't. Money blinds the heart." There was silence again. Then Derek asked, "Why are you really helping me?" Kabira looked up at the sky and whispered, "Because I was once like your wife, and I nearly destroyed someone who loved me." Derek turned to her sharply, but she didn't explain. Instead, she stood up, wiped her hands, and said, "Tomorrow is the beginning of their end. Be ready." It was 10:12 a.m. on a Thursday morning when Gerald Onuoha walked into the Omodayo mansion with confidence in his steps and betrayal in his briefcase. His smile was wide. His perfume was strong. His eyes? cold. Pamela watched him from upstairs, her robe tied loosely, sipping a smoothie like a queen waiting for the crown. Derek stood in the living room wearing a calm expression, dressed in a native senator outfit and brown loafers. He shook Gerald's hand, offering him a seat. "No time to waste," Gerald said. "Let's sign and move forward." "I agree," Derek replied. He took the file and opened it slowly. Fake names, false documents, stolen properties registered under new shell companies. The plan was simple: get Derek to sign, transfer power of attorney, and erase him from his own empire. He picked up a pen. Gerald leaned forward, and just before the tip of the pen touched the paper, Derek paused. "You didn't even flinch when I nearly died last week," he said quietly. Gerald blinked. "What?" "The explosion. My driver nearly died. You didn't call. You didn't show up. You only asked me to sign." "Come on, Dee," Gerald chuckled nervously. "You're alive. That's what matters." Derek looked him in the eye. "I know everything." Gerald froze. "I know about the shell companies, the accounts in Seychelles, the CIA official you bribed. I know it all." The air grew heavy. Then Derek dropped the pen, sat back, and said 5 words. "You're under investigation, Gerald." Before Gerald could respond, 4 men in plain clothes walked in. One of them showed a badge from the EFCC. "Mr. Gerald Onuoha, you're under arrest for corporate fraud, forgery, and attempted embezzlement." Pamela, watching from upstairs, dropped her smoothie. Gerald stood up. "Derek, you set me up?" "No," Derek replied, standing too. "You set yourself up. I just gave you the rope." The EFCC officers cuffed him. Gerald struggled. "Pamela, tell him!" But Pamela didn't speak. She slowly turned and disappeared into the bedroom, slamming the door shut. 30 minutes later, she came downstairs, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, her face pale. "You did this," she said to Derek. He didn't answer. She grabbed her phone, bag, and keys. "I'm leaving. I have nothing else to say." "That's good," Derek replied without looking up, "because I have plenty to say to your lawyer." She paused. "Excuse me?" "You're part of it," he said coldly. "Don't think your name didn't come up in the audit. I have enough to file criminal conspiracy charges." Pamela's jaw dropped. "I'm your wife." "No," he said. "You were my investment. A bad one." Pamela's lips trembled. "You'll regret this. I already regret marrying you." She stood there, speechless. Then Kabira walked into the room, holding a glass of juice. Calm, quiet, present. Pamela's face twisted. You little snake." Kabira didn't flinch. She set the glass down and replied calmly, "I tried to save your husband. You tried to destroy him. You think he'll marry you? You think you'll wear my rings?" Kabira smiled. "I don't want your rings. I came to return truth to this house. My work is done." Pamela stormed out, dragging her luggage behind her like a defeated queen who had lost her crown. That night, the mansion was silent again. Not the kind of silence that came from fear, but the kind that whispered peace. Derek sat in his study for a long time, staring at the fireproof safe where he had locked the evidence. He had survived. He had seen betrayal, not from strangers, but from the 2 people he trusted most. Pamela, Gerald, wife, best friend, gone. Later that night, Kabira came to say goodnight. She wore a simple wrapper, her hair tied back, a notebook in her hand. Derek looked up at her. "You knew this would happen." She nodded. "I saw it all. But even visions don't help those who refuse to listen." He smiled faintly. "What now?" "I leave in the morning." "No," Derek said quickly. "You don't have to. Stay, please." Kabira looked down. "I was never meant to stay. Some people are sent to save, others to build. I'm the first." Tears rose in Derek's eyes, but he held them. "You saved my life," he said. "Not just from death, but from blindness." "I did what I was sent to do," she replied. "Now, you must do what you were born to do. Rise again." As she turned to leave, he called her name. "Kabira." She turned. "I don't know who sent you. I don't know what you are, but I'm grateful." She smiled. "That's all that matters." 3 days later. The mansion was different now. No more shouting. No more forced laughter. No more fake perfume and cold kisses. It was quiet. Too quiet. Chief Derek Omadayo stood by his office window, sipping hot tea, watching rain slide down the glass. His lawyer had finalized everything. Gerald was behind bars. Pamela had packed her things and left for her sister's house in Enugu. And Kabira? She was gone too. No goodbye note. No forwarded address. Just gone. Derek had looked for her. Called her number, switched off. Asked neighbors, nothing. even went to the domestic agency where Pamela claimed to have found her. They had no record of any Kabira. She doesn't exist in our system, the receptionist had said, confused. That's when it hit him. Kabira was never hired. Pamela never brought her in. Back in the mansion, Derek sat alone in the living room. His eyes wandered around the space. The folded curtains, the clean rug, the peace. Then he noticed something strange. An envelope tucked into the side of the bookshelf. He pulled it out and opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten. Dear Chief Omodayo, I wasn't supposed to stay this long, but you're a hard man to protect. Proud, logical, suspicious. You almost died 3 times. You almost signed away your destiny. You almost lost yourself. But you listened, and that saved you. My real name is Aisha Yakubu. 7 years ago, I was married to a wealthy businessman in Kaduna. I thought I had found love. But just like you, I married a woman in disguise, a man pretending to love me. He betrayed me with my sister. I lost everything. I became bitter, angry. I wanted to end my life. But one day, an old woman on a bus touched my hand and said, "You are not meant to die. You are meant to help the dying. Not their bodies, but their destinies." That night, I had my first dream. The next morning, it came to pass. Since then, I've gone from house to house, entering lives that are about to collapse. Some listen, some don't. The ones who do, survive. Thank you for listening. Live right. And when love comes again, let it come slow, honest, and true. Kabira. Derek folded the letter slowly, holding it to his chest. Tears rolled down his face, not from pain, but from gratitude. This woman had no reason to help him. No contract, no salary, no gain. Yet she stood between him and destruction, again and again. She saved him not with power or money, but with truth. 6 months later. Crest Gold Properties, formerly Crestgate, had opened 3 new offices across Nigeria. Derek had completely overhauled the company. All shady contractors were dropped. He hired fresh graduates, offered internships, funded orphanage programs, and sponsored widows. He wasn't just building houses anymore, he was building people. He moved into a smaller home. Still beautiful, but simple. No more 12-room mansions with empty laughter. And slowly, he began to live again. One Saturday morning, while attending a youth empowerment conference in Ibadan, he gave a keynote speech. After the talk, a woman walked up to him. Petite, brown-skinned, wearing a modest Ankara gown, a scarf tied around her head, she smiled softly, and he froze. It wasn't Kabira. But the eyes, the calmness, it felt the same. "Good morning, sir," she said gently. "I'm Halima. I run a shelter for abused women not far from here." He smiled back, eyes warm. "I'm Derek. I know what it means to be abused, not physically, but emotionally, financially, mentally." Halima nodded. "Then maybe you'd like to visit us sometime. Talk to some of the women. Share your story." Derek nodded. "Yes, I'd love to." And just like that, a new door opened. Not loud, not forced, but slow, honest, and true. Pamela fled to Ghana after being served a court summons. The EFCC is still investigating her involvement in the scam. Gerald remains in prison, awaiting trial. As for Kabira, no one ever saw her again. But every now and then, in homes on the edge of ruin, a quiet maid shows up. She speaks little, she works hard, and if you listen to her warnings, you just might survive what was sent to destroy you. If this story touched you, please leave a comment below. Like and share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe so you don't miss more powerful stories like this.